be speaking about magic today. And I know that there have been a lot of questions about elves, that some people have thought there's a difference between the 13 tribes and the classes that Cymbidium has been teaching. And actually, there is not. See, there are 13 racial subtypes, but in and amongst those, there are a vast array of ethnic groups. Okay? There are 13 distinct types of elves. But ethnicity is a whole nother ballgame. Okay? How you were raised and where you were raised is going to be a significant factor on your character. Okay? Example: high elves. We've been talking. I did a class on them not too long ago, and that's the race that is the core race that is based on mythology. But as far as ethnic groups, there's a wide range of ethnic groups. Sindori from World of Warcraft, those are high elves. It's just that they are in a particular place where they have developed specific skills, and their powers have altered. They're still the same ones. It's just that they have shifted to be more in line with their specific needs. Elves are very mutable. Okay, that's one of the key elements about elves, is that they are an extremely magical race. And because of that, they can alter significantly depending upon the environment that they are raised in. So I just mentioned Sindori. But let's look at Lord of the Rings. Those are high elves too. At least the city that is the prime. That's the main city that you see in the movies or anything. The main characters, the main female Galadriel, she's a high elf. Okay, and basically the elven ring bearers are high elves. Okay, and so let's look at Sylvan elves, for example. In ESO or Skyrim, Sylvan elves are called wood elves. They are not wood elves. Yes, they call them that, and that's cool, because not everybody knows what Sylvan even means. But those are Sylvan elves. And let's look at LOTR for that. And so you're going to look at what they consider to be wood elves. Who's the main wood elf in Lord of the Rings? I know everyone here knows. That's right, Legolas. Okay. He is a Sylvan elf. Okay? Sylvan elves look, basically, they got human colored skin and pointed ears. Okay? And they live in the woods, generally speaking. Okay? So it's easy to say, okay, well, they're wood elves. But wood elves have, generally speaking, they have dark brown skin and green hair. They can also have, green skin and brown hair. All right. They are naturally camouflaged. Okay. That's one way to put it. Okay. Is that wood elves are closer to the trees than sylvan elves are. Sylvan elves do generally they live in the woods, but wood elves is another step closer to the trees. Okay, and wood elves do not necessarily have the same social grouping lifestyle as sylvan elves. Okay, sylvan elves are like village life. Okay, could be larger village life, and a lot of times they have walking trees as their house. Okay, a wood elf, on the other hand, they live in much smaller communities, very, very tight knit, and their entire community may live in one tree. Okay, or have turned a bramble into a village that you would never ever know that it was there unless you were brought there. That's right, walking trees. Both wood elves and sylvan elves can have walking trees. It's not out of the norm for a sylvan elf city, to be a group of trees that are sentient, that are all tied together with vines and bridges and all this wood, and the entire city walks around. That's not out of the question for a sylvan community. A wood elf community, they're almost like family units. They don't collect together in villages and cities. It's like if there's several wood elves in the same area, then they're each individual, and then they come together. Okay, when they each tree is that family's tree, and they may be near each other. Okay, but they're almost never connected to one another. They just happen to be together. Okay, but among the sylvan elves, the root systems are intertwined. The branches are intertwined. They build bridges between them because they are a community. Because the sylvan elves are ultimately they're part of the high elf clan. Okay, the high elf race has chosen society, community, as their shield against the universe. Okay, and all of the subversions of them, whether it be Lord of the Rings or ESO or Skyrim or World of Warcraft or whatever, EverQuest, whatever it may be, in all those instances, all the races that fall under high elf community is their shield. It's like, dark elves, the community is darkness. I mean, the shield is darkness. All the dark elves share that, and all the subtypes are still going to share that. Star elves they are in the same subgroup of dark elves. So darkness is part of their backstory. Okay, Star elves live in space, which that's kind of dark, right? Just a wee bit, right? Yes. Even they have floating cities in space. Just for lack of a better word, it's really, the astral plane, the ethereal plane. But the ethereal plane is this vast darkness. Anyway, so I just wanted to, throw that out there that for all of you who have Cymbidium's note cards, it's not wrong. Okay? They are at all. Okay? It's just that he goes into specific detail about the ethnic groups. Does that make sense? Doom, doom. Yes, yes. Well, as far as being opposite, okay? Like I said, the ethnicity is a major event. It's a major thing, okay? Because here's a good example. Humans, all right? Look at humans for a minute. It's all one race, okay? But there are a vast array of ethnic differences. Let's say Americans, Russians, Africans, South Americans, Japanese, and we can go beyond that, but that just throws. Those are not different races, okay? They are different ethnic groups, okay? And then you can break that down further into cultural groups like Judaism, or German, English, French, okay? Those are what he's talking about. So I'll answer your question just one moment here. My apologies. So what I'm showing you there is that within one racial group, you can have a vast difference. Like the difference between the skin color of a Central African individual as opposed to a Northern Russian individual. Okay? It's an ethnic difference. Okay, now, your question, crew. Drow is just an ethnic group of dark elf. Okay? It's not a separate race. Okay? Drow is just a different, it's just an ethnic group. And in fact, if you're talking about Lothian Drow, that's a religious cult. Okay? Loth, or Loth, depending on who you are and how you want to pronounce it, in this, 78, 79, 81 modules, Loth was crafted to be the prime deity for a cult, not for the entire race. Okay? And you will, in the near future, you're going to see some releases from Wizards of the Coast, since you're talking about D&D, that show people my originally what was written when I worked on that many moons ago. That's Loth was supposed to be a religious cult, and then RA loved it so much he made it about the entire race. But that is not what it was meant to be about. And you're going to see some releases from Wizards of the Coast about that in the near future, because it's the anniversary of the Drow is upon us, and when that happens, they are going to release some of the other dark elven races that were initially crafted, but RA didn't notice. Okay, because he loved that so much that he worked on it. Yes, it really does. You work on you. Okay, you work on you. Okay, the information that you're getting from me and from my conclave and from my teachers is telling you what the base knowledge is. Okay, but you work on you. Just because you're just because you look at it and say, hey, that's not what my story's about. Hey, it doesn't make you wrong. Okay? That does not make you wrong. That just tells you what your race is like. Okay? Let me, since the crew is still, I missed your statement. What statement was that? Let me back up here. Yes, you are correct. Sylvan elves are community mindset, and wood elves are individual mindset. Yes, that is correct. Individual as in family. They do believe in family, but they will take themselves over the community at all. Okay. Jalil Tenny, what is your question?
Oh, just Tenny. That's fine. What of the elven race or group of Noldor?
Noldor. Okay. Now, as when it comes to the to what is considered to be subtypes, I'm glad you asked those questions because that doesn't necessarily make them subtypes. All right. In this particular case, you're talking about Tolkien, right? You're talking about the Tolkien.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Now, those are the Svartalfheim. Okay. Noldor are the Svartalfheim from mythology. And the Svartalfheim are the progenitors. They're the third of the three prime original races. Okay? So what you're talking about, those are the progenitors for dwarves. Okay?
Okay.
All right. I'll spell that out. Svartalfheim.
Well, the primary reason I went with those was I'm a weaponsmith. And
yes, and it's an excellent choice.
Yeah, I had talked to a couple of people, and because my job entails weaponsmith and blacksmith, they figured that was the best elf for me.
Yes, and that is correct. Okay, the Noldor are the Svartalfar. Okay, of the three races that existed prior to the crossing. Okay, the three races that existed prior to the crossing, those are the Svartalfar. Now, after the crossing, and then the three subdivided. Okay, those are going to be the closest to the actual Svartalfar, because the three actuals, they're all celestials. Okay, and they're not player races, but the Svartalfar, the Noldor that you are referring to, are basically, they are the elven equivalent of dwarves. Okay, and yes, of course, dwarves were subdivided also. I mean, come from the subdivision. But I'm glad you asked that question, because they are. I mean, that's Tolkien's version of the Svartalfar. The three primes were the Lossalfar, the Svartalfar, and the Niflvar. Niflvar became Dark elves, and the Svartalfar, they subdivide into dwarves and wood elves, and the Noldor, which you were referring to, and actually many others, and then of course the Niflvar subdivide into Dark elves, and Star elves primarily. But I'm glad you asked that question. It was a good question. Okay?
Thank you.
Not a problem. Now, I'm not sure, since you did it in voice, if everybody caught that, but hopefully they did. Okay. But yes, I am familiar with the Svart Elfar. All those three, I took those directly from Teutonic mythology. Many moons ago, when I was doing research for Dark Elves, it was some people's opinion that there was not three, that there was only two, but there was too much evidence to suggest that there's actually three, and the dwarves come from the Nodor or Svart Elfar. Okay, my apologies. Yes, if you do have, I do appreciate when you type out your questions. I do understand the voice is so much faster. That's why I teach in voice. But it is helpful. Anyway, okay, so did I answer everybody's questions so far? And you don't need to apologize. Nobody's upset with you, man. Just it's the thing. It's all good. Okay. Does everybody understand what I'm talking about here? That that Cymbidium stuff are ethnic groups. He's not wrong. There's not a conflict between the 13 races and Cymbidium's work. There may be some, some extremes. Like, what? That's opposite of what Cymbidium said. And it's like, no, it's not actually. That just happens to be an ethnic group. Okay? Does that make sense? It's not, what's the word? It's not conflicting. It just seems conflicting if you don't realize that those are ethnic groups. Star Elves, for example. Okay? I don't know if what he has written about Star Elves or what he put out. But I know that in some writings, Star Elves are, very, very different than in other writings. Dark Elves, another good example. Some people believe that Drow is a separate race. It's not even an elf. Well, that's not true. Drow is a dark elf, okay? It just happens to be devoted to the spider cult. Okay? Does that all make sense? Okay. Go ahead, ask your questions. Type them out here. I know I got a message from Jaluka Zuriel. So bring them out here in the open. Ask your question. What you need to know. And actually what Master Apprentice of All mentioned earlier about Averial, that's exactly what Star Elves feel. Star Elves feel that elves are the master race and everybody else is a lesser being. Okay? They're still good guys, generally because they believe in love and beauty and life, but they believe that elves are the master race, and anybody else doesn't really matter. So I don't know, and that doesn't fly with a lot of mentalities, especially if you're not elf. It's like, how can you consider you're a good guy if you can't be a good guy if you think I'm not worth. If I'm not worth it, I'm not cool. How you how are you a good guy? I'm not cool with that. Smack you upside the head. um, Legolas's father. Yes, exactly. Sounds kind of Nazi. Exactly correct. Legolas's father, if you in the movie, he had that attitude. Yes, exactly. Thranduil. He had that attitude. It's like, well, if they're not elves, who cares? They can all just die. All right. Now he's still technically a good guy, but it's difficult to grasp how you can consider yourself a good guy and be not care about other races. But that's there are ethnocentric people out there. I have a difficult time being a dark elf, thinking that that's cool, because dark elves have been treated like POSs in for many millennia, even though we saved the dang world. There's there have been cities that you know put the dark elves in as the sewer cleaners, and guess what? I'm not okay with that. You know, no. Okay. Did I answer all your questions? Okay. Oh yeah. Here we go. So, Moon elves. Okay. Thank you, Moon elves. Okay. Um, in Dragonlance, they would be the Sylvanesti, I believe. Pretty sure. Or slipping my right now. But yes, the Moon Elves across the board, their basics is that they are a tad bit xenophobic. They like the company of other elves. They are not they're not superior and haughty like star elves, but they tend to stay away from everyone else if they can. They have cities in the sky. They build cities using magic in the sky, and they hang out with birds a lot, and they have waterfalls. They'll run from one cloud to another and down and down and down all the way to the ground. So, but can there be clans of extremely friendly wood elves? Of course there can. That is, just because the race is that way does not mean that every ethnic group of moon elves is that way. Okay? Does that make sense? That's very, very well put. Master Primitive Zoologist said, put a very, very good thing out there. It depends upon the author. Okay, there are some authors that will throw that out there. Okay, and their experience with a certain race is going to be where they go with it. It's like I talked about Salvatore earlier. Okay, at Salvatore, when he was assigned to write his books, okay, when Gary said, "Hey, I want you to do this thing," he looked through all the information that was given to him, and he locked on to Loth, and that's what he wrote about. Okay, so if you think of Dark Elves and you've only ever read what he said, then you're going to think that Dark Elves are this sadistic, cruel. Not that we're not sadomasochistic by nature, because we don't have a choice, but that's not what he wrote about. He wrote Dark Elves as being very cruel and extremely matriarchal. And if that's your only knowledge about Drow, about Dark Elves, then that's what your opinion's going to be. Okay? But that is only one ethnic group about Dark Elves. Okay? Yes, you're talking about Forgotten Realms. That is where. Oh, hey, that's totally fine. That is absolutely fine. You're referring to the Forgotten Realms Faerun edition, okay? And in Faerun, they do a really good job of expanding upon all the different types of different types of elves. Okay, and they latched on to that aspect. Okay, and that was pretty close spelling, but yes, in Faerun, the Moon Elves are extremely friendly. Okay, and they are opposite of Moon Elves everywhere else. Okay? But that doesn't make them wrong. Okay? At all. Okay? It's just that ethnic group of Moon Elves are extremely nice and love all peoples, and they're adventuring types. They want to be out there with all the other races, but that's not Moon Elves across the board. But that ethnic group is not wrong. Okay, we're talking about Drow just a second ago. Faerun also has their own spin on Drow. They have their own spin on all of the different elven types, and they're not wrong. Okay? It's just they're not wrong. It's just that is just an ethnic type. There, Argo was working on breaking it all down a little bit further. We have been, and he asked me questions constantly. Yes, that's correct. Citadel Sharpclaws has the spelling for Faerun. Faerun, when it was crafted, has become really, really popular. Forgotten Realms is ginormous, and you cannot discount their ethnic versions. You cannot. Okay, they're great, but all of the when I broke them down originally, and this was back in the 70s actually, is I pulled them from Teutonic, Germanic, for and Japanese, and actually many others. I pulled them from mythology. Okay, so the elven varieties we have are from our myths. Okay, and then they have been broken down by different authors throughout history, and I do not discount any of those authors. Okay, but when I present these things to you, I'm presenting them to you from a mythical perspective. Okay, do you get that? Doom 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 doom. Okay. Yes, of course. And as I told Argo, if you have questions and I'm not online, you can get those questions to me and I will answer you. May not be immediate, but I will answer them as soon as I can. Every member of the conclave can reach me outside of the world, and they're constantly asking me questions. And yes, Master Apprentice Eval, see, he's conclave, so he obviously has direct line to me. Malachite, Master Apprentice, she has a direct line to me. Okay, Jalil Air, another example. So if they are conclave, they have a direct line to me, and I will answer your questions. You get it to them, they get it to me. I'll answer it, and it'll come back to you. Okay? There's like half a dozen, maybe a dozen people. Yeah, probably a dozen that have direct line to me. Yep, Argo's another good example. He has a direct line to me. He is my Red Magister. Red Magister, the White Magister, the Black Magister, all the Magister apprentices, and some of the guild leads. You know, not all, but many of the guild leads have direct link to me too. So if you have questions, I will answer them. Okay? Yes. Okay, that is a good way to put it. If you're playing your elf in a certain way, say, hey, you know what? That doesn't make you wrong. Just because, here we're going to use moon elves as an example because it's glaring. Moon elves they tend to be isolationists, but in Faerun they are anti-isolationists, And so if you play your character as an anti-isolationist, that doesn't make you wrong. Doesn't make you wrong. That just means that your ethnic background happens to be among the Faerun type. Okay? Does that make sense? The key element with elves is that they are an extremely magical race, and that's why there are so many varieties of them. That initially, in order to survive this world, because when elves arrived on this planet, for lack of a better word, it was primordial. It was lava, and it was a very violent world. Okay, and dragons were the ones in charge, and the dragons were feral at that point, and dragons and giants, and were the ones in charge, and they were very feral. When elves arrived, they brought magic that changed the dragons. They started being intelligent and changed the giants. They started being intelligent and magical. Yes. Personality, you choose yourself. Okay? Jalop, or I can't see you. I can't tell if you're male or female. So, Jalil is female, Jaluk is male. So, but personality, okay. So Jalil, period, Pyrea. So, personality is yourself. You choose that. Okay? Everything else, as far when you're picking your race, let's say that you really like elves. And obviously I really like elves. When you're picking your race, then it's not personality that you want to go with. Okay? Go with something else you like. Okay? The best example I could tell you is start with what they are attuned to. Okay? You like griffins a lot. Hey, start looking at high elves. Okay? You're into owlbears? Maybe you should start looking at dark elves. Okay? You're really into the woods. You love forest stuff. Okay? Well, look at wood elves and sylvan elves. Okay? Exactly, Master Apprentice of all. Yes, Jalil Tani. Sending. That's sending. That is original information. Yes. So all elves have sending. Now, it gets tighter when they are a mated pair. Okay? But all elves have seven word sending. Then they are if they're a bonded pair, it goes beyond sending. Okay? Then they share an empathic bond. Okay? Because elves are a very magical race. Okay? Did that answer your question? Of course. Every elf has sending. It is completely within the realm of RP. You can use that. Okay. Half elves can have sending. They don't always, because if you are a half breed of any type, you don't get all the powers of your parents, but you can't. It is possible. So if someone's role playing that they're a half elf and they have sending, and they're not necessarily wrong. They could be, they could have it. Okay, but they're not. But they'll have to give up something else that they could have. You don't get all of your elven parents' abilities. Angelo Glory, you're gonna have to explain this elven hat thing to me. Did I give you a hat and don't remember? I don't think so. Maybe. Okay. And yes, the moon elven cities that float and the star elven cities that float, those are hardcore. And remember, because of the lifespan of an elf, 1,000 years is just one lifespan. So if they build a city to float, it's going to float 100,000, a million years before it even begins to need any upkeep. Okay, and just like the artificial suns in the Underdark. Yes, 1,000. That's correct. The artificial suns in the Underdark, they're meant to never go out. So they're like, you're talking thousands of years. So if you put, when you build a floating city and you get 100 Archmage level elves together, that's going to be 100,000 years. That is, it's not just going to go out. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Something, I know that we haven't hit all the topics but I'm still on this. Here's something else that you might want to understand. No, that's totally fine. Something else you might want to understand about elven magic. Elven magic is called shaping. Okay? Elves don't call their magic. They don't cast a spell. They shape. Okay? Because it's so much a part of them that they don't, it's, unlike humans, in order to cast a spell, they pick up a book and then they read it and they learn and they figure out how to do it. It's sorcery or witchcraft and on the other level. Elves, they shape. Okay? That's why they are masters of the arcane. Okay? Yes, they're capable of doing divine magic, but divine magic comes from outside. But all elves internally have magic. They have magic in their blood. Okay? And so they shape whatever they're doing. And that is another reason why there are 13 different types, because they have chosen which aspect of the universe that they are can be particularly attuned to, and they have more access to shaping. Yes, you are correct. Magister Punch Duval. Does that understand? Does that make sense here? It's like celestials have divine magic in their blood. Okay. Elves have arcane magic in their blood. That is also why when some caster types, when they need blood for their magic, they go after elves or celestials, because both of them have, magical blood, for lack of a better word. Okay? So that's their first choices are celestials or elves. Correct. That is correct. Although, since all elves have pacify, then it, or whatever your racial is on your particular type of elf, that is shaping a kind of magic already. Fae, okay? Fae are inherently elemental. They have elemental magic in their blood. So thank you for bringing that up. Okay? So Fae do have magical blood too, but it is elemental. It's so it's not divided in the way arcane and divine is. It is both arcane and divine. They have elemental. Okay? Dragons, as I mentioned earlier, they started out, they were feral until the elves came along, and that gave them magic. So it's, they have a connection to magic that is on the blood's level, okay? But it's not necessarily in their blood, it's in their bones. Okay? And for dragons, they have magic in their bones. Okay? And that is arcane. Anytime, that's arcane also, just so you know. And actually brings up, since you mentioned about dragons, it brings up another point. Okay? Where I told you celestials have magic in their blood. Elementals are like the Fae. They have elemental magic in there, but except in their case, they don't actually have bones, but it's in their being. They have elemental magic in their beings. Okay? Demons and devils. Just like celestials, they have divine magic in their blood. Okay? Demons, devils, and celestials all fall in that same category. That's why they make such good mummies, too, by the way. But anyway, all wood elves and Zephyr both have are arcane because they're elves. Okay, now if you're Zephyr, as in half celestial, half elf, that's distinctly possible. They would have one or the other. They wouldn't have both. Okay, and since they're a half breed, we're talking half breed here. Then you don't get both of the abilities of you don't get all the abilities of both your parents. You have to pick and choose. Do you have divine magic in your blood, or do you have arcane magic in your blood? Do you have sending, or do you not? If celestials have tongue, the ability of tongues, you would not have sending and tongues. Okay. So you couldn't have both. You have to choose which one. Okay. Half breeds get half the powers of their parents, not all. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah, see, that is the problem, is that if you don't have sending, then you can receive, but you can't send a message back. But okay. So did that all of that help a little bit about the clarification on elves? Okay. I know that I meant that we sit down here to talk about magic. Well, and we kind of did. We just didn't go into that half of the thing, but we did get some of it done. Okay. Shaping a very important thing. Okay. When you are an elf, okay, remember that you are shaping the universe. Okay. Not like a human who casts a spell. Okay. A human mage is demanding that a thing happens when they cast their spell. An elven mage, they are shaping the event to cause it to happen. Okay? Huge difference. Okay? God modding, you have to always keep in mind not to God mod. You know? That is, police yourself. Police yourself. You can't control someone else. Okay? But there is a difference between shaping and casting a spell, even though they're both exactly the same. Okay? Because an elven mage is still casting a spell. It's just that they are doing it in a different way. Okay? Jill Baynath, what's your question about dragons and magic? Yes, I did discuss it. Arcane magic is in their bones. You know, it's part of them, just like it is part of elves too. But in the case of elves, it is, throughout them. It's in their blood, and and in the case of dragons, it's in their core. That's why I said their bones. It's a core part of them. Dragons, when they first started out, prior to the arrival of elves, they were animals. Okay? But during the crossing, when at the time when the world was all lava and fire, I understand. We have actually talked about this many times. Okay, and there's a vast array of information that indicate that dragons at one time were animals. Okay, and they became magical and intelligent. That's legend and myth. The stuff that I use is from legend and myth. And then there are many authors throughout history that have done all kinds of stuff. But my research is legend and myth. Okay? I didn't just pick up a Tolkien book and decide this is the way read him and say, okay, this is the way dragons are. That's not how I roll. Okay? It is so far back in time that nobody would even remember it. Okay? We're talking back in the time when the planet was lava and was still forming. Okay? When water was coming, when the continents hadn't actually even formed yet, during the time when the planet was coming together. Dragons were already ruling the world. Dragons and giants were the first races on this planet. And during its formation, they were part of its formation. Okay? But they were animals at that time. And then magic came into the world. Magic wasn't there yet. It came into the world. And when it came into the world, they became intelligent entities. Yes, we're talking way beyond humans. Okay? We're talking in the billions of years time span. Okay? We're talking pre-million. We're talking pre-dinosaurs. Okay? Before any of that. Okay? Does that make... Are you understanding that a little bit more? Okay. Then you can get with me later and I can explain further if you didn't understand it. Okay. All right. Okay. Moving on. So, are there any questions about anything that we have discussed so far? I know that Azuria has some questions. Go ahead and throw them out there. What are your questions? You know. Doom, 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 doom. I know that we didn't really get into the nuts and bolts of magic, and I apologize because I had meant to do that. But this was an important thing to discuss. All right, Chalil Air, go ahead. Well, technically, no. um, technically, when you come to a row, and I'm teaching you OOCly. Okay, so But have I done classes in an IC format? Yes, I have. But my row is OOC. But I do occasionally do classes that are IC. But when I do classes that are IC, I usually do them elsewhere. Like I have been asked to run a class somewhere. Usually, like for Ithran, I think pretty much all of them have been for Ithran. If the guild lead asks me to come down and teach a class, and I go down to their classroom, then it's IC. Okay? Does that make sense? Magic Apprentice of All is exactly correct. I am not here to pour vinegar in your water. Okay? If you have a perception of that you have gleaned over the years for how you want to run, I'm not here to tell you you're wrong. Okay? I present to you the mythical, legendary, and subsequently my take on all that, my research and what it has resulted in. But I'm not here to pour vinegar in your water. Okay? My philosophy is, hey, you know what? You want to think that? More power to you. I'm cool with it. All right. So, important aspects from takeaways from today is Cymbidium was talking about the ethnic groups. All right, and there are more ethnic groups than there are actual racial divisions. Look at humans for an example. There's only one DNA strand that's different between a Central African and a Northern Russian, but there are 7,200 differences inside of the ethnic group. Okay, there's only one between ethnic groups, but there are 7,000 inside of that. Okay, so important takeaway that Cymbidium was talking about ethnic groups. There are 13 racial subtypes among elves, but in those 13 types there can be many more. Many more ethnic and ethnocultural variations. Okay? Again, Master Apprentice Eval is correct. That's very well put. And think about those things. I mean, nothing I'm saying right here changes your character. Your character is still your character. All right? It may add some flavor because you know that you are a super friendly character and your city were super friendly people. But that doesn't mean the other however many we're going to talk about moon elves right here. That doesn't mean the other moon elves are the same way that your city is. Your particular ones were nice and awesome and they loved people and all the jazz. Okay? But then when you're out traveling and then you find this 7-tier waterfall floating in the sky that each one of those tiers is a city, those people are going to be different than your city was. Now, since you're a moon elf, they're going to treat you just like everybody else. But if you happen to be walking around with a goblin and you both go up there, they're not going to treat that goblin very nice. That's all that really means. Okay? All good. There you go. Jalil hit you straight up. Cultural, ethnic cultural differences matter. All right? Just because the core race, there are 13 core races as far as elves go. Just because it doesn't match what you are, that you know of. I mean, I know some dark elves. Who only ever read Salvatore. And they've never experienced dark elves outside of Salvatore at all. Okay? And they had a dungeon master in D&D who was Salvatorian. And so they only have a Salvatorian point of view. So when they hear me talk about dark elves, their brain explodes. Okay? their brain explodes. They don't understand. Okay.
Hold on.
Balados.
I know we're not supposed to talk a whole lot, but I want to throw something out there when I saw that. Lore is fluid. Lore is designed to be changed and flexed in a way that you can use it to describe something or a change or something new. That's what retcons are for in everything. Like every single lore has retcons. It's designed to be fluid. It's designed to be incorporeal so that it can mold to what you need your history to be, not set in stone so rigid that you cannot work to fit something else in if it's needed to. You know, that's why when we're talking about elf lore and dragon lore, it goes back billions of years so that it doesn't matter. It's just a flavor text that you're probably never going to talk about icily because your character doesn't know about it. And if you happen to come across it in a book, in a thing, your character can go, "Oh man, that's cool. I did not know that. It doesn't change how I work. I'm just going to continue along my day like nothing happened." You know. So keep in mind that nothing will ever be set in stone permanently 100%. It's there for flavor, it's there to help your character grow, and it's there to change if it needs to fit something later down the road.
Exactly. Yep. We're talking, that's actually a very, very good point. When we're talking dragon lore and elf lore, we're talking way beyond the time that even that would be historically memorable to your character at all. Not even your grandparents' grandparents would know anything about it. Okay? It is, flavor text. Flavor text is a good way for it. Good thought pattern. Okay? It's prehistory. Okay? Before the time of the dinosaurs. Okay? So, we're talking a long time ago, right? Right? I mean, not even archaeology is going to be able to pull up that information when we're talking about that stuff. Okay? The origin stuff. Anyway, so I hope that all helped. Yes, Jaluk Crew. We are working on it. I'm not sure if everything is done yet. But it is, since we have 151 races, it's a process. But I know that Argo is going through the elves right now. Okay? And as you already know, there's just 13 elven subtypes. Okay? And so it's a process. That's actually well said. If when you stop learning, you stop living. Yes, Jill Ensley. I know this is taking forever. My apologies. So I will close this very soon. I know that I didn't get into all the stuff I wanted to talk about magic, but this was a very, very important part, because I know that there was some misunderstandings about elves, and I felt that that was an important thing to hit before I move forward. And it wasn't away from magic because it's an important aspect. And if before I close this, if you have more questions, go ahead, throw them out there. Little Pyrea, why is your brain still broken? And but I also realize it takes a while to swallow some things. Okay? And process what that means. But as Master Apprentice have all said, some of the things don't directly involve you. Okay? Just because it's your racial type, okay, that does not necessarily mean it directly affects you. Okay, Jaluk Thorn crashed, so and Jalil Kabarta is exactly correct. So she eats meat even though wood elves don't, because she was raised among humans. It doesn't make her wrong. Mhm. And like I said, you can always ask questions. Okay? Because my information, my research predates a lot of stuff. And just so you know, also, my archaeology teacher was Tolkien's research assistant. So, so I have some knowledge on that end that most people don't have also. Okay. And whenever you run across that, okay, because that's not entirely inaccurate about the community backstory thing. If you're one of those people who needs things to be a little bit more black and white, because there are many people like that, they need it. They're like, there's too much gray here. I have difficulty with the gray. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, I don't think that people that can't see gray are wrong. If they need it black and white, come to me, and I will help you sort through the gray so that it fits, so that you can put it on your shelf, and move it to the left and right, so that the light hits it just the way you want it to, while you're sitting on your at your desk, and you look up and say, "Oh, there it is." If you need that, I'm good with it. I will help you. Okay. And here's one other piece of information. If you come to these classes and you feel like you would want to know some of this stuff in ICly, okay, that you think, hey, this would be more helpful if I had it ICly, because sometimes it is, it's up to you. Then talk to Ithran Guild, okay, and they can get with me and schedule a time where I can teach a class on magic or necromancy or whatever it happens to be. I've taught a necromancy class ICly before. Well, I don't know how recent it was, but several of them. I've taught many IC necromancy classes, and I have no problems teaching IC classes. Just get with Ithran Guild, and they will schedule it with me, and then you can get the knowledge that you're looking for your character that will help that you're looking for. Okay? It's like all this information about elves is great and cool, but it's all OOC. How can I use that ICly? Well, that's how you do it. Schedule a class and I will come teach that. Okay? I'm good with it. Okay. Anybody else have any more questions? Balados Virtanent, Jill Glory. I'm closing it anyway. So, Balados Virtanent, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and close class. And I'll be on my office for a couple more minutes before I shut down. Balados Virtanent, and remember, next week is battle. Okay? Vindas for now.